you ever look at someone and think, how do they keep winning? They're not smarter than you, not luckier, not even necessarily more talented. Yet somehow, they always seem to be 2, 3 moves ahead, like they're reading from a script the rest of us haven't even seen. You're still planning your next step, and they've already crossed the finish line. It's easy to chalk it up to timing or privilege or connections. But if you pay attention long enough, you start noticing something deeper. These people understand the system, not the official one, the invisible one. The truth is, power isn't about strength, money, or talent. It's about awareness, an understanding of how people, systems, and perception actually work. The gap between the weak and the powerful isn't ability, it's knowledge. Knowledge of human psychology, of manipulation, of persuasion. Most people still believe the world runs on fairness, that if you're good, kind, patient, and hardworking, people will notice. But the truth? The world doesn't reward goodness, it rewards strategy. While you're out here playing fair, someone else is playing a completely different game, a game with rules that aren't written down, but deeply ingrained in human nature. These are the psychological laws of power. They've shaped every empire, every relationship, every corporation, every movement. The ones who understand them rise. The ones who don't become fuel for someone else's success story. See, power doesn't start in the muscles, it starts in the mind. Neuroscientifically speaking, power is about perception and scarcity. When the human brain perceives something as scarce time, presence, access, it triggers value. The more available something is, the less dopamine it produces. That's why geniuses, leaders, and manipulators have always understood the art of withholding. They don't chase approval, they control access. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli didn't just write about politics, he reverse-engineered human behavior. He realized power moves in patterns. People rise and fall, predictably, not randomly. And if you can see those patterns, if you can think in those patterns, you stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. So today, we're not talking about motivation. We're talking about control, about 8 psychological laws of power that have been used for centuries to bend the game in favor of those who understand it. Once you see these laws, you can't unsee them. And once you use them, you'll realize how blind you've been. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my power. Law 1. Create value through absence. Let me ask you this. Who commands more respect, the person who's always available, or the one who vanishes and reappears like an event? In psychology, this is called the scarcity principle. What's rare becomes desirable, and what's abundant becomes disposable. Most people don't realize how often they cheapen their own presence. They show up to every event, answer every text instantly, and wonder why people stop valuing them. The human brain adapts quickly to predictability. When something or someone is always there, we stop noticing it. It fades into the background. You become familiar, and familiarity kills fascination. But the moment you pull away, something strange happens. You trigger uncertainty. Your absence becomes psychological tension. People start wondering, where did they go? Why haven't I heard from them? And the brain, wired for pattern recognition, starts craving the missing variable you. This is why every genius, from leaders to artists, learns to weaponize silence and distance, not as manipulation, but as control. Because when you control your presence, you control perception. You shift from being taken for granted to being anticipated. It's not about ghosting or arrogance, it's about rhythm. Social neuroscience shows that intermittent presence strengthens value perception. The same reason scarcity increases luxury pricing applies to human relationships. You become valuable when your access feels limited. Machiavelli once said, "Make yourself necessary, but never common." He understood that the most dangerous mistake in power is to become ordinary. Every time you overshare, overgive, over-explain, you erode the mystery that sustains your influence. Think about it. The most respected figures, creators, thinkers, leaders, they're selective. They know when to speak and when to vanish. They know that silence builds tension, and tension, in psychology, equals power. When you master absence, people stop assuming. They start seeking. They text first. They adjust their tone. They chase your attention because you've made it valuable. That's not ego, that's behavioral conditioning. So here's your task. Stop being everywhere. Protect your presence. Don't give your energy to everyone who asks for it. Appear intentionally, not constantly. Be the person people look forward to, not the one they assume will always show up. Because when your presence becomes rare, your value multiplies. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My absence creates value. Law 2. Make others come to you. Let's get real. The one who chases always loses. Every single time. Chasing creates a neurochemical imbalance. Dopamine for the chaser, control for the chased. The chaser becomes addicted to pursuit. The other becomes accustomed to being pursued. That dynamic rewires respect. Power means control, and control means pull, not push. The person who can sit still and wait is always stronger than the one who scrambles to be chosen. The more you chase, the more you communicate. I need you. And in psychology, need equals subordination. Meanwhile, the person who waits, the one who builds, who attracts, communicates the opposite. I am the reward. That flips the hierarchy instantly. Suddenly, they're the one being sought. Machiavelli said, "The one who adapts his policy to the times prospers." In our world, the times reward magnetism, not motion. The more you move toward people, the less they move toward you. The solution? Build gravity. Become the center that draws others in. How? By becoming the source of something valuable. Build your niche. Create something that people want to be around. Knowledge, skill, perspective, results, whatever makes you irreplaceable. You don't convince people you're valuable. You show them through what you create. In neuroscience, this is called incentive salience, the process by which certain stimuli, like status, results, or mystery, become irresistible. Instead of chasing validation, you craft an image, an energy, a presence that others can't ignore. You create the bait, and they come to you. The weak knock on doors, the powerful make people knock on theirs. So stop begging for opportunity. Build something worth seeking out. The world doesn't respond to need, it responds to value. The moment you position yourself as the prize, everything changes. Drop this affirmation in the comments. They come to me. Law 3. Court attention at all costs. Let's be honest. In a world drowning in noise, invisibility is death. You could be brilliant, disciplined, capable, but if nobody sees you, none of it matters. Attention isn't vanity, it's currency. The human brain is wired to notice contrast. What stands out captures attention, and what blends in disappears. Psychologists call this the von Restorff effect, the phenomenon where distinctive items are more likely to be remembered. Most people are terrified of standing out. They blend in, play it safe, avoid risk. Then they wonder why they're forgotten. Geniuses don't make that mistake. They know visibility is survival. If people can't see you, they can't respect you. If you're not on their mind, you're not in their plans. Machiavelli said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." People believe what they see, not what they hear. The mind remembers spectacle, not subtlety. So here's the paradox. Humility might make you virtuous, but visibility makes you powerful. You don't need to be loud, but you do need to be unmistakable. Stand for something. Speak boldly. Move in a way that forces recognition. Because in the economy of attention, quiet competence is invisible currency. It has no value until it's seen. Attention isn't just about followers or fame. It's about control of perception. When people are watching you, you shape narrative. You decide how they interpret your actions. But when you're invisible, the world tells your story for you. Stop hiding behind eventually. Stop waiting to be discovered. Create moments people can't ignore. Be deliberate. Be visible. Because the difference between success and obscurity isn't talent, it's exposure. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I demand attention. Law 4. Appeal to self-interest, never to mercy. Let's strip away the illusions for a second. People don't act out of kindness, they act out of interest. Every decision, even the ones that look selfless, ties back to reward. Sometimes it's money, sometimes approval, sometimes identity, but it's always something. We've been conditioned to think asking for help is noble, that vulnerability naturally attracts compassion, but psychology and human history say otherwise. When you beg, you trigger pity. When you offer value, you trigger motivation, and motivation always beats mercy. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The wise prince wins loyalty not by generosity, but by utility. In other words, if people benefit from you, they'll move mountains to keep you around. But if they pity you, they'll help once and then quietly disappear. Here's the thing. We like to think humans are moral creatures, but at our core, we're reward-driven. Neuroimaging shows that when we help someone, the brain lights up in the same regions as when we receive money or praise. Helping feels good only when it pays off emotionally. The trick isn't to manipulate, it's to align your request with someone's reward system. So when you want something from someone, time, opportunity, mentorship, don't talk about your struggle. Talk about the mutual gain. Frame your ask like this. Here's how this benefits you. Appeal to their self-image, their goals, their needs. Make saying yes the rational choice. For example, imagine you need a mentor. Don't say, I really need your help. Say, I admire how you've mastered this, and I've identified a few areas where I can take some work off your plate while learning from you. That's reciprocity, a core driver of human cooperation. You're no longer a burden, you're a value exchange. Appealing to mercy creates short-term compliance. Appealing to self-interest creates long-term alliances. Because when people gain from helping you, they'll keep doing it not out of guilt, but satisfaction. The world rewards those who understand incentives. It's not cynical, it's biological. Humans act from what's called the egoistic bias. Even altruism is filtered through self-gain. Once you understand that, you stop begging. You start offering. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I offer value first. Law 5. Keep others dependent on you. Here's a question that should haunt you. Who depends on you more than you depend on them? If you can't name anyone, you have no power. People think independence is the ultimate goal, but complete independence is a myth. The world is a network of dependency chains. Those who sit at the top are not the most self-sufficient, they're the most needed. Power doesn't come from freedom. It comes from being indispensable. When others can't move without you, your position becomes non-negotiable. That's why every empire builds systems that rely on them. Every leader, every company, every influencer creates dependence. They don't just sell a product, they sell a need. In psychology, this taps into the dependency paradox. The more others rely on you, the more loyal they become. It's not love, it's loss aversion, the fear of losing access to what only you can provide. Machiavelli wrote, "The best fortress is to be found in the love of the people." But that love was never emotional, it was strategic. When people benefit from your presence, they protect it. They'll defend you, not because they adore you, but because losing you costs them something. So ask yourself, what do you offer that can't be easily replaced? A skill? An insight? A network? A perspective? Whatever it is, deepen it. Specialize until you're the key that fits a lock no one else can open. Most people make the mistake of being good at many things. Geniuses focus on being irreplaceable in one. Dependence doesn't mean manipulation. It means creating value so essential that your absence becomes inconvenient. When that happens, you shift the dynamic. People consult you before they act. They think twice before betraying you. Because in their mind, you're not just helpful, you're necessary. Build systems that rely on you. Teach, but never transfer all your knowledge. Provide, but never make it effortless for others to do it without you. Be generous, but never transparent about your entire playbook. Because once people can replicate you, They no longer need you. The powerful aren't cold, they're calculated. They understand that dependency is the most reliable form of loyalty. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am essential. Law 6. Win through actions, never through argument. We love to believe that words can change minds, that if we just explain our logic clearly enough, others will see the truth. But psychology disagrees. Once someone's ego is involved, reason dies. Arguments rarely resolve truth, they expose insecurity. The moment you argue, you're admitting your need for validation. You're saying, I need you to agree for me to feel right. That's not power. That's dependency disguised as conviction. Geniuses don't argue. They demonstrate. They know that results are the only language that bypasses ego. Neuroscience shows that belief change doesn't come from logic. It comes from evidence that disrupts expectation. In other words, people don't believe you, they believe what they see. Machiavelli said, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. He understood that talk is flexible. Action is final. Think about the last time someone doubted you. Did debating them change anything? Probably not. But achieving what they said you couldn't, that's unforgettable. Action crushes resistance in ways argument never can. When you argue, you invite opposition. When you act, you silence it. Here's what powerful people do. They let skepticism fuel their performance. They stop trying to convince and start trying to prove. They turn criticism into invisibility because while the critics talk, they're too busy building. This is more than productivity. It's psychological warfare. Every argument consumes energy. Every action compounds momentum. When you shift from defending to doing, you become unpredictable, and that unpredictability itself becomes power. Stop debating people who aren't even on your level. Let time and outcomes defend you, because once the results speak, no rebuttal can compete. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My actions speak louder. Law 7. Always say less than necessary. Words are windows into the mind. Every extra one you offer gives others a clearer map of how you think, and the more they understand your map, the easier it is to predict and control you. Most people drown themselves in language. They explain, justify, defend. But behind every over-explainer is fear, the fear of being misunderstood. Ironically, that fear destroys authority. The more you try to prove your worth through words, the more you reveal insecurity. Silence, on the other hand, radiates composure. It creates ambiguity. And the human mind hates ambiguity. It fills it with projection. When you speak less, people imagine more. They assign depth to you. They assume you know more than you reveal. This isn't mysticism, it's neuroscience. The ambiguity effect causes people to avoid choices with unknown probabilities. So, when they can't predict you, they tread carefully around you. They assume power. Machiavelli put it simply. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you are. By saying less, you control what they see. You decide the version of you that exists in their mind. So stop talking so much. Speak deliberately. Let silence hang in the air. Watch how it unnerves people. In negotiation, the quiet one wins, because silence forces the other side to fill the space, often revealing their own intentions. Use words as currency, spend them sparingly. When you do speak, make it count. Silence isn't emptiness, it's suspense. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Silence is power. Law 8. Conceal your intentions. The most dangerous mistake you can make is transparency. The moment people know your real motives, you've given them the power to block you. Predictability is vulnerability. People who talk about their plans too early don't realize they're sabotaging themselves. Not because others are evil, but because once your path is visible, others start calculating how it affects them. They react, interfere, copy, or compete. Power thrives in shadows. Machiavelli said, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." But deception here doesn't mean lies, it means strategy. The human brain is wired for pattern detection. When someone can't read your next move, they default to hesitation. They can't counter what they can't anticipate. That pause gives you the upper hand. So keep your real goals hidden behind decoys. Speak of small plans while executing grand ones. Share the surface story, never the strategy beneath it. When people think they've figured you out, they stop looking deeper, and that's when you move. Remember, secrecy isn't isolation, it's protection. The world is full of well-meaning saboteurs, people who'll talk you out of your vision just because they can't see it themselves. Shield your plans until they become undeniable reality. Plan in private, execute in public, shock them with the results. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind stays hidden. So, there they are, the 8 dark psychological laws of power. Cold, uncomfortable, brutally honest. They don't fit the story we were told growing up. Because we were raised on moral myths that good things come to good people, that honesty and hard work are enough, that life rewards virtue. But history, psychology, and reality have shown something different. The truth is that power doesn't reward purity, it rewards understanding. Understanding how people actually work, not how we wish they did. You can be kind, but if you don't understand influence, you'll end up serving those who do. You can be honest, but if you reveal too much, you'll hand your strategy to those who'll use it against you. And this is the uncomfortable paradox of human behavior. Morality and manipulation often use the same tools. The difference is intention. Geniuses, leaders, creators, they don't use these laws to destroy others. They use them to protect themselves in a world that punishes the unguarded. Power isn't evil. It's neutral like fire. It burns if you're careless, but it illuminates if you know how to control it. And the first spark of that control begins in awareness. Let's dig deeper into what's really happening beneath these laws, the psychology behind them. The first law, create value through absence, ties directly to what neuroscientists call the reward prediction error. Your brain releases dopamine, not when it gets what it expects, but when something unpredictable happens. Constant presence kills unpredictability. That's why scarcity excites the mind. It signals rarity, importance, significance. The fewer chances someone has to access you, the stronger their emotional response when they finally do. This law isn't about playing games, it's about managing energy. Every person has finite attention. When you distribute yours too freely, people subconsciously label it as low value. When you control it, you trigger curiosity and respect. That's why those who know how to withdraw strategically, not emotionally, always appear powerful. Their absence is a mirror that reflects their importance. The second law, make others come to you, is rooted in a principle from behavioral economics called reactance theory. Humans crave autonomy. The moment they feel chased, they instinctively pull away. They need to feel like they chose you. So the powerful never beg for loyalty, they create environments that make others choose to follow. You see this in marketing, relationships, politics everywhere. The people who master attraction, not persuasion, always win. Because they flip the script from, please want me, to, you'll want me eventually. That shift triggers pursuit. Then there's court attention at all costs. It sounds vain, but in cognitive psychology, attention is literally the gatekeeper of memory. If you're not noticed, you don't exist in the mental models of others. You could be brilliant, but without attention, your influence dies in silence. Think of attention like oxygen. You don't breathe to be dramatic, you breathe to live. The same applies to visibility. It's not about being loud, it's about being seen. Because when you're invisible, you lose narrative control. Other people decide your story for you, and the human mind, wired for narrative bias, always fills in the blanks, often unfavorably. Then we move to appeal to self-interest, never to mercy. This law taps directly into the core of social exchange theory. Every human interaction is a transaction of energy, validation, or advantage. We weigh every decision subconsciously on one scale. What do I gain or lose? Even altruism is a trade of self-image for moral reward. This doesn't mean compassion doesn't exist. It means compassion has motives, and understanding those motives allows you to communicate on the level people actually respond to. You don't have to manipulate, you just have to frame your value in terms others care about. When you align your goals with someone else's benefit, resistance evaporates. That's not deception, it's design. Keep others dependent on. You might sound ruthless, but think of it through systems theory. Every stable system maintains itself through interdependence. If you remove your unique function, the system destabilizes. That's leverage. Not control by force, but by necessity. The powerful know this. They specialize so deeply that removing them would cause more harm than keeping them close. That's not arrogance, it's strategic contribution. In business, this is called value lock-in. In psychology, it's relevance dependency. When people depend on you, your relevance becomes self-sustaining. Now, win through actions, never through argument. This law dismantles the illusion that truth wins. Cognitive dissonance prevents people from accepting new ideas that threaten their identity. You can't argue someone out of their ego. The only way to change perception is to prove it through reality. That's why every breakthrough, every revolution, every act of genius wasn't debated into existence, it was demonstrated. Actions bypass resistance. Arguments reinforce it. Then, always say less than necessary. In neuroscience, this links to information asymmetry. The less others know, the more they infer. The mind hates uncertainty, so it assigns power to mystery. You control the narrative not by saying more, but by letting others project what they want to believe about you. And finally, conceal your intentions. Modern research calls this strategic ambiguity. Great negotiators, leaders, and innovators never reveal their hand until it's time. Because once people understand your next move, they adapt to counter it. Unpredictability keeps you safe. Transparency makes you a target. Look back across history, every figure who changed the game understood these dynamics. Not saints, not villains, strategists. They read human nature not as good or bad, but as predictable. But let's push this further. Why do these laws make people uncomfortable? Because they reveal how fragile our illusions of fairness are. Most people want the world to be moral because it's easier to navigate when you believe good things come to good people. It's a comforting story, but comfort isn't truth. Power exists because human beings are emotional, not logical. Our brains evolved to survive tribes, not to understand global hierarchies. We crave belonging more than freedom, validation more than accuracy. That's why the same psychological buttons get pressed across every generation: fear of loss, desire for status, hunger for meaning. And that's what these laws exploit, or, more accurately, illuminate. They expose how much of what we call morality is just social programming. They challenge you to stop being a pawn moved by emotional conditioning and start being the player who understands the board. Because the real game isn't about domination, it's about awareness. When you see the hidden mechanics, you stop reacting to life like it's happening to you. You start shaping it consciously. And that shift from reactive to strategic is the difference between being controlled and being in control, between chasing power and embodying it. Let's strip it down to the essence. Power isn't about manipulation. It's about clarity, seeing reality as it is, not as your emotions wish it to be. Once you see human nature clearly, you stop taking things personally. You stop expecting fairness from systems built on hierarchy. You stop begging for respect and start commanding it through behavior, precision, and restraint. But here's the secret no one tells you. Power is most dangerous when it's unconscious. When you don't know you have it, you misuse it. When you deny it, others use it on you. Awareness doesn't corrupt, it protects. That's why the truly powerful are calm. They don't flex, they don't brag, they don't chase. Because they understand that control isn't about domination, it's about detachment. Let's break that down. When you no longer need someone to like you, they start chasing your approval. When you no longer fear loss, people fear losing you. When you no longer react to emotion, you start controlling the emotional weather of every room you walk into. That's not arrogance, it's emotional mastery. And every law we've covered so far leads back to that single point. Think about it. Creating value through absence? That's emotional control. Resisting the urge to overexpose yourself. Making others come to you? That's control of your energy. Letting attraction, not anxiety, do the work. Courting attention? That's understanding psychology, knowing that perception shapes reality. Appealing to self-interest? That's emotional intelligence, speaking in the language people actually understand. Keeping others dependent? That's strategic empathy, knowing how to make yourself essential without force. Winning through action, not argument? That's self-mastery, valuing results over ego. Saying less than necessary? That's restraint, letting silence work as a weapon. Concealing intentions? That's foresight, protecting your strategy until it's unassailable. Every law is a fragment of emotional control, and emotional control is the root currency of power. Here's the paradox. Power begins where emotion ends. But that doesn't mean you suppress feeling. It means you govern it. Like a fire, emotion gives light when contained, but destruction when uncontrolled. And yet, this is where most people fail. They read about these laws, they memorize strategies, but they never integrate them emotionally. They act powerful, but feel powerless. And that internal dissonance leaks through. Because real power doesn't come from pretending. It comes from understanding your own shadow. You can't influence others if you can't first manage the chaos inside yourself. You can't play the psychological game externally if you're losing it internally. So, the next evolution of power isn't about tactics, it's about integration. Integration means you see the darker truths without being consumed by them. You can use them without becoming them. You can know how manipulation works and still choose influence. You can know how fear controls and still choose calm. You can know how cruelty wins and still choose precision. That's what separates Machiavellian monsters from modern strategists. Awareness without conscience creates tyrants. Awareness with conscience creates leaders. Machiavelli wrote for princes in a brutal age, but today, power isn't just political, it's psychological. It lives in boardrooms, relationships, online platforms, creative spaces. Every time someone shapes perception, allocates attention, or manages influence, they're using these laws. Some consciously, most instinctively. The difference is that you won't use them unconsciously anymore. Because now, you see the architecture of power for what it is. A system of incentives, a network of dependencies, a dance of appearances, a balance between visibility and mystery. And when you master those four elements, you stop chasing power, you embody it. The quiet presence that bends conversations toward you. The stillness that unsettles noise. The composure that makes people question their own certainty. That's real dominance, not loud, not aggressive, but gravitational. So the final law isn't in any book. It's this. Become the gravity. You don't chase, you attract. You don't argue, you demonstrate. You don't reveal, you radiate. You don't react, you direct. People orbit around those who know who they are, because certainty is the rarest energy on earth. In a world addicted to validation, the one who needs nothing becomes the one who gets everything. That's the essence of power, not control over others, but control over self. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am my own gravity.